Can I introduce the Reverend Richard Carter from St. Martin in the Fields, who has a few words to say, I think, by way of welcome.
My name's Richard Carter. I'm the Associate Vicar here at St. Martin in the Fields. And this day, just this day, is a day that I personally look forward to at St. Martin's. Trafalgar Square is a very busy place with noise, with sirens, with lots taking place, all exciting things. And it's a church which has to relate to the world around us. But this day always seems to take us back to our spiritual roots and remind us that at the center of all things, this is a sacred place, a place to step aside, an oasis, a place where we can reconnect with the true values of our lives. You see, silence is not something we do. Silence, if you like, is something we allow and we welcome. And it's our hope that today you will welcome that silence into your own life and reconnect with the things that really matter in your own life, in the communities in which you live, and in the wider world. I want to talk about different types of silence, because I don't think silence is uniform. It's a bit like swimming, where you swim through cold patches and rough patches and warm patches and still patches. And I always think silence is a bit like that too. An image that comes to my mind of one type of silence is the silence of being present. As a priest, I'm often invited to go to people's houses when they're ill or visit them in hospital. And on the way to the hospital, you often think, what shall I say to them? What shall I do? Especially if they're in a difficult position or they have some serious illness. And then when you arrive in the hospital and you sit down beside them at the bed, you suddenly realize that you actually don't have to say anything. You just have to be there, present to them. And I'd like to you to think just for a moment in your own life about that silence of being present. Because I think our modern world has lost it. We think everything is about doing things, communicating, talking. But there's something very, very special about those in your life who are truly present to you. Think of someone in your own life who is present to you, and what a gift that is. And then perhaps think about who you can be present to. That wonderful feeling of being in a room where you actually don't have to speak, you don't have to talk, but you feel the warmth of another person's presence who is close to you. It's a great gift. I'd like you now to think of another type of silence. It's the silence of being present to all things, this incredible universe in which we live. Just think for a moment of the idea, you might not like water, but I do. Think for a moment of that image of someone floating in water, or perhaps you floating in water. And you're looking up at the sky above you. And you know that if you panic or if you move or if you become scared of the water, you'll begin to sink But if you just float, stretching out your arms and breathing deeply, then you become part of the sea, and there is nothing to fear. You are not the waves, you're not the current, but you are part of that whole incredible universe. Above you, you see the clouds. The clouds come, the clouds go. But you are not the cloud, you are part of all of creation. Those moments of stillness are so important in our lives. But then there's another silence. It's a silence beyond words. Peter Brook, the great theatre director, talks about this silence. It's the silence at the end of a great play where the play ends and no one claps. Because it's as if there are no words or there is no action to support what you've just seen or heard. The only response is silence. Perhaps you've heard a great orchestra or been to one of the proms at the Royal Albert Hall, and when the conductor finishes the final note, you're waiting for everyone to shout and to clap and to cheer, but there is just a silence. The silence of complete attention to what you've heard. A silence beyond words. And the last silence I'd like to share with you is something that happened to me yesterday. This church is a church which has a heart for people who are homeless and vulnerable, as many of you will know. And many of those homeless people at the moment are people from other countries who've come here as migrants hoping for a place of welcome, a place to belong. In Lampedusa, in Italy, one of the small islands in Italy, as many of you will know, many of those migrants arrive in boats. And on that island, many people have been washed ashore who have lost their lives in the sea. There is a carpenter, an Italian carpenter called Mr. Tocco, who works in Lampedusa. And from the wreckage of one of the ships which was washed up on the shore of Lampedusa, he made it his gift to the people to make small crosses. I heard about this story and I wrote to him and I asked him if he would make a cross for this church, a cross which would say, everyone is welcome here. That somehow we have seen and heard your pain, and this church is a place which says refugees are welcome here. Mr. Tocco doesn't speak any English, and I don't speak any Italian, so we've had about 6 months of communicating, trying to translate things for each other. But yesterday, a brown paper package arrived from Lampedusa. And inside that package was a cross made from the gunwale of one of the ships that sunk. and on which many people lost their lives. I took it to the Connection next door because I was running a spirituality group there, and I passed the cross around a group of people who have known homelessness. And everyone was completely silent. Completely silent. And then one of the members of the group, we noticed tears running down his face. And another of the group passed him a paper handkerchief. I want to show you that cross now. Thomas Merton said that as we contemplate in silence, we hold or we heal in our hearts the sins and the pain of the world. I ask you in the silence of this day, as you sit in silence also, that we also may hold in our hearts the pain of our world at this time, and ask for peace and healing, a healing beyond words, a healing that only God can bring. Amen.